So far, it's basically an analog of what a tweeter chamber would be, but deliberately it has all the problems that you would have, right? So if I were to look at it, a cylinder is essentially a squared circle. So there's still going to be standing waves this way, right? And if I were to cap off the back, there'd be standing waves this way. That would cause rear wave distortion. So I could add an aperiodic vent to vent out the rear waves, or I could add a port. And that's traditionally what you do, right? And it actually sounds pretty good as it is right now. But so this is pretty much like a cool way to demonstrate like the problems and how you solve the problems that would be inherent in the geometry of this thing. Even though it sounds pretty rad the way it is. I'm actually using an old KEF driver. It was a driver they had right between the XQ series and the modern HTV style driver. So it's a pretty good test for what we want to accomplish here. So I'm going to try to, so the whole point is to eliminate any standing waves that could occur any direction. And rather than doing it traditionally by just using one port, we're going to be creating a whole bunch of resonant chambers. And each of those resonant chambers are going to be tuned so that the whole entire frequency range could then be played smoothly from as high as, you know, I'm aiming probably around like 300 hertz down to as low as I could go. So I actually have no idea how low I could go because I don't know how many resonant chambers I'm going to get. So what I traditionally did was use floating resonant chambers. So I kind of pulled like the, I guess that whole idea that space is not actually a vacuum, but it's more like bubbles in a champagne glass thing, the quote from Nikola Tesla. So originally what I did was actually use like a bunch of foam that I then carved holes into, and it was like this hard rubbery foam. So that inside of the hard rubbery foam, you could actually make as many little bubbles of resonance as possible that would soak up the resonance inside, and basically like the way an opera singer sings and causes a glass to shatter, the same thing would happen. So it would kind of soak up the energy and resonate in itself. But then by having a whole bunch of those of different sizes, you can actually get them all to work as what I call sound pixels, because this thing basically begins to tune itself to all the different small resonant chambers inside. And then you could actually tune all the different resonant chambers one at a time, almost like Lego blocks, so that it's actually bisectioned, so that it works to pretty much dampen and resonate the whole entire tube at the same time. So then it eliminates any sort of an axial standing wave and ends up recycling all those waves that you wouldn't want. But rather than just creating a black hole, it actually ends up becoming a way of tuning the driver so that it becomes more resonant, and you could use it to actually make it so that it's a smooth response all the way across the entire spectrum. So yeah, it's kind of cool that's the Final Fantasy fight music going on right now. So yeah, this is pretty much I call it magna tech versus meta tech. So let's see, I guess, what happens. Thanks.